the host.
I'll do it. Okay.
Yeah, do it, Larry.
Oh,
You
you're
can
the
switch it up.
host. No, you know what? Fuck me, dude.
No, I'm not gonna fuck you.
Larry,
Okay?
you do it. This is your team. You host this one.
Yeah, this is your favorite team.
The mighty Boston Bruins. Listen, let's just say they had a good season, finishing in the Stanley Cup Finals, coming up short against the St. Louis Blues, our boy Tilted's team. So I don't know about you guys. I absolutely hate this team, being a Leafs fan. So I'm gonna let you guys take the lead here.
Well, finished with 107 points, third in the league. Thank you very much. Goals for 259, goals against 215. That's good for 11th and 4th. So right behind Arizona, or right in front of Arizona, I should say, in terms of goals against, which is quite surprising. I thought Tuukka, the way he was playing last year, wouldn't have been that great, but I guess just team overall was able to keep the puck out of the net.
I hate him.
And I mean, you got to look at this team. It's the same core guys again this year. It's still the same group of guys.
And they're only getting better. Like, it's fucking weird. Normally these guys
you think they're only getting better, but Chara's not going to be the same guy that he was last year.
No, he took
every year he comes back and he's just a little bit slower, I
was thinking of Marchand, Bergeron, Krejci, Pasta, McAvoy and Krug. Those are like the kind of core guys. And Chara, obviously, but yeah, he's there defensively. He ain't putting up no numbers for you.
No, definitely not. But if you're just looking at that D-core as we spoke, so you got Chara on the first with McAvoy, then you got Krug, Carlo, Grzelcyk, and Clifton. Now, I know Grzelcyk and Clifton, they had like a breakout in the playoffs, but the top four there, if you take out Chara, that's 3 really solid Ds, right?
Yep.
And
which most
kind of play
NHL teams would love to have, right?
No. And they all kind of play that same role where, yeah, they're tough, even though Krug's not that big. They're tough, but they can also score on you. They'll put the puck in the net if you give them the opportunity.
And apparently, if you piss Krug off, he'll just take his helmet off, skate down the ice, and fucking smoke you. So he could do it all.
Dude,
still won though.
You talked about the two, like their depth on D. Like the one thing I will say about the Bruins is that it doesn't matter who they bring up from the farm. Like every guy on that team plays, for the guy sitting next to him. And I know in the playoffs they made a big deal about how Chara was saying, they treat every rookie like he's been there the whole time, right? So there's no special treatment in that room. Treat all the new guys the same. So coming into a squad and already feeling like you belong and how you want to write it out with the guy sitting next to you, I think that's pretty impressive. You don't see chemistry like that in every dressing room. So
no, it allows the rookies to come in, right, and just worry about pressing their teammates or
and they play their fucking sack off, right? Like you're gonna play your balls off for guys like that, especially a guy like Chara who breaks his face in 8 pieces and keeps playing.
What a beast.
I hate him so much.
Home record 29-9-3. Pretty fucking stellar if you ask me. Away 20-15-6. Not as good, but it's if you're gonna be good at something, you might as well fucking just rail the shit out of everyone at it, and then the rest of your game can quietly be average. So home ice advantage for the Bruins was nice. PP was 25%. Sorry, 5th in the league. PK was 79%, 16th in the league. So with all those defensive heroes and good goaltending, their PK wasn't as good. Now, maybe that's because their forwards are actually always trying to score on the PK. I think they actually had the second most PK goals. So goals for, sorry. So
yeah, but they put their stars on the PK, which is something not many teams do.
No, which is kind of Marchand, Bergeron out there constantly, and Krejci. Those are like 3 of the top guys that are on there.
So you're getting offense out of your defense.
I think they're throwing DeBrusk in there as well. So yeah, they're not sitting back on the PK. They know they're using their speed that they got. Because you think about it, you think back in the day when you think of the Boston Bruins, right? You're thinking of that big, tough, just run you out of the building. But now they're the fast, quick, skilled team.
They're quick.
They are very quick.
Yeah, and I will say,
guys can wheel.
Listen, as a Leafs fan, I watched every playoff game of that first round, and I was expecting to see, the mean, big bad Bruins as always. Dude, they were matching the Leafs speed. I thought the Leafs had an edge coming into that round just speed wise. Man,
Well, I think it was
wiped out.
Was it game 3 or game 4 where the Leafs won and it was like
Game 2,
perfect
so
3-1
that's
win?
it. So game 2, the Boston was hitting everything that moved, and they kind of got into the Leafs' heads a little bit. And then as of game 3 and on, all of a sudden, they like changed their game plan 100%. They just switched it on a dime, and the next thing you knew, they were out skating the Leafs left and right, and winning all the battles. And dude, we just talked about two teams in the last episodes, that couldn't even reach the 20 goal plateau, and here you got three guys in the high 30s and two that are in the 20s. Like they're exploding on offense. They got all the offensive tools, and then they got those gritty defensemen. So they're just an all around solid team.
Shout out to Bruce Cassidy for getting them going.
Oh yeah.
One interesting stat, and I guess it's just more of a test to how great the Lightning were this year. In the month of February, Bruins played 13 games. They won 11 of them, and they lost in ground. They lost 2 points to Tampa in that month. So even though they were an amazing team this year, like it's hard to imagine how good Tampa was. Not that we're talking about them, but just wanted to bring it up because it's impressive.
And it's important to remark, right? You got Johansson, who's now gone to Buffalo. You got Noel Acciari, who's now gone to Florida. So those are two key top 6 forwards, maybe one definitely top 6, one on the third line, and Acciari. But that's 2 key guys up front. And even with those 2 guys gone, you look at their starting 12 up front, I would take that on my team.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, you're looking at Bacchus, but like Bacchus, I think I can see a buyout happening in his case.
Well, that
so season.
Speaking of contracts, I want to speak about this because this is probably something that is the whole league should look at. Again, I don't want to draw parallels to the Leafs, but the Leafs have a bunch of guys now that are going to be making over $10 million a year. This team, dude, you got Bacchus, cap hit $6 million, Bergeron 6.8. Your guy Zdeno's making $5 million. DeBrusk is still on entry level. Krug is at $5 million. Marchand is at $6 million. Dude, Pasta's at 6.6. Like your highest paid player is your goalie at $7 million.
Yeah.
Like that's insane cap management.
I think that's more of a how would I say this? It's more of a culture thing. They've told their players no one's making $10 million on this team. You don't like it, you can leave.
Exactly.
Take less or leave.
But now it's the greedy kids era where like all these new kids. So they don't have that kid that's gonna come in and say, hey, I want my 10 mil. If DeBrusk tries to take his 10 mil, Marchand's gonna slit his throat.
Gang beat him with pots and pans.
Marchand's gonna look at him and be like, hey buddy, I just scored 100 points last year. You're taking $4 million.
Yeah,
okay?
slap him
Shut
silly.
the fuck up.
Yeah, sit him down.
Yeah.
So I think
actually
that speaks millions.
I think there was a quote from Pasternak saying, they're like, so what do you think of your contract? You're making $6 million. Other guys are making 8, 9, 10. He's like, where I'm from, $6 million to play hockey, you're living the dream.
Yeah. And he says he loves the game. He just wants to play the game.
And you think about all these kids now that are getting their $10, $11 million contracts. Unfortunately, yeah, it's great. You're making money, but you really hurt your team, and you're not really, unless you're carrying the whole team on your back, you're not gonna have the depth to win in the long run. You
look at Nylander and what happened with him, dude. I don't think he plays on the second line on this team. No. He doesn't have the grit. You know what I mean? Like I dump him on the third line of this Bruins team. So like
and like you look back, I don't know if you guys heard the pod with the boys over at Spit and Chicklets, and they were speaking to Crosby, and Crosby said, "Yeah, taking less money is great, but it only works if everybody does it, right?"
Exactly.
So all these guys on the Bruins are all taking less money. If DeBrusk tries to come up and says, "Give me $8 million," they're going to be like,
gone, dude.
"It's not happening." They're just going to ship him out. You know?
Well, I wish Marner was listening to that podcast because I could definitely use him sign any day now.
It's coming. It's coming. I think it's almost like a done deal. They're waiting for a few extra things to fall into place.
We need them to beat these assholes.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about Boston? Do you think they have a shot at winning the division, or do you think they take a step back this year?
I think they stay perfectly the same. Like,
Yeah, I
I
think
don't,
they're
I don't.
still in that spot where. Sorry, Sean. Finish.
No, I'm just saying because the guys that you mentioned that left, they're
Mhm.
not they're not big ones that are gonna turn the tide in the other favor or the other way for the Bruins. Like Tampa's Tampa. The only team that I could see them actually, maybe pick going down a spot is the Leafs. But like
Mhm.
either way, it's 1, 2, 3. I think in that division, it's Tampa, Bruins, Leafs, or Tampa, Leafs, Bruins.
Mhm.
What do you guys think?
Maybe
I think though the Atlantic this year is going to get back to being a strong division. Because you look at last year, like yeah, the Habs
Oh,
finished with 96
I think
points, but
Florida, Buffalo.
they weren't even like close. They weren't even
Yeah.
sniffing really. They made a late push, but nothing materialized. But I think Florida, like you said, is going to be really good. Buffalo is kind of a wild card for me. I think they have potential, but it's tough with a new coach coming in. But yeah, I see Boston and Toronto. I think Tampa's again going to just run away with the division.
I think
Even
Detroit is the only team that is kind of, well, them and Ottawa obviously, but
yeah, but
Detroit's
you
the
know
only
what?
team that's early rebuild. So is Ottawa.
Yeah.
All
But you
the
look at a
others,
team
dude.
like Ottawa, even though they're in a rebuild, they're just that team where they show up to your rink on like a Thursday night and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's Ottawa. Let's just focus on our Saturday night game. And then Ottawa comes in and they beat you 3-1.
they
Oh,
don't
it's
give
the
a
worst.
fuck.
And it's like, what the hell? We just gave away 2 points to a fucking
Well,
basement
that's it.
dweller.
Yo,
You
what do you?
know?
Okay, so do you guys have the same thoughts on Boston? If Bergeron and Chara take it kind of another step back, because Bergeron did finish with quite a lot of points, but I do feel like his game was starting to
Mm.
slip, and the
A
injuries
lot of
start piling
miles.
up. A
A
lot of
lot of
miles on that
miles on
fucking
that
engine.
body.
So
Yeah.
I don't like. Let's say Bergeron drops from a 30 goal scorer to a 20 goal scorer next year, and
Hmm.
Zdeno takes a huge step back, which he's already done. 5 goals, 9 points in 62 games.
Yeah.
He's like an Iron Man, and now he's missing games because of injury. Do you guys think without those two guys performing at their best, that Boston is still a powerhouse?
I think without Chara you can survive, but I think if you don't have Bergeron going
Yeah.
at a point a game, it's a big hit. But you look at those two wingers, like those two guys are going to be like the two of the top 10 scorers in the league
Right.
this year. Again,
But if a team learns to
if that
shut those
line
two
stays
guys
hot,
down,
right? If that line stays hot,
I think Bergeron makes that line what they are. I
yeah.
think you put Krejci between those guys, you're slowing them down. And
Hmm.
I think if a team can figure out how to shut down Pasternak and Marshy,
Yeah.
that the rest of the team, secondary scoring wise, like they don't have, after Krejci and DeBrusque, man, their best player is what, 12 goals after?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know, but again, I think it all depends on the health of the old guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is
Especially
what
the
the
last.
which is what
Yeah.
their
Go ahead.
story's been since
Exactly.
2013, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, they ride their vets and their vets carry them to as far as they're gonna go. So,
And yo, to be honest, man, Halak as their backup was pretty damn solid this year.
yeah,
Yeah.
Pretty
that's a
damn
great. They
solid.
have a really good goalie situation going right now. They
Yeah.
can just play Rask 50, 55 games
Dude, they
and
split
allow.
they split 46-40 last year.
Yeah.
Almost straight down the middle. And they both
Hmm.
had, a great amount of dubs, and Halak got 5 shutouts, Rask got 4.
Yeah.
Like, man, that's impressive out of your goalies,
Hmm.
dude. The Leafs couldn't get a backup win if they sacrificed Nylander to the gods.
Hmm. I think it's going to be interesting this year, though. I don't think Tampa's going to be. I don't think. Well, obviously, I don't see Tampa getting 62 wins again this year. Um, I see Toronto and Boston really battling hard for that second spot. But I think I see 4 Atlantic teams making it this year. I see a wild card for either Florida or maybe a Montreal if they can figure out their shit in the mid part of the season.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Dude, even
Yeah,
even two wild cards from the Atlantic wouldn't
yeah,
shock me.
could be. Yeah, you're right because you look at Columbus and Carolina, and
Yeah, dude.
Carolina had all that magic last year, right? So are they gonna live up to the
Even the
Storm's
Islanders, like, are they gonna
Yeah.
the
play to the same?
Islanders?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh might drop, dude. After they got,
Columbus, what is Columbus going to do now that their two big boys are gone?
yeah, that's tough,
Um,
dude. They're oh,
very interesting to see
well,
what's going to
we'll
happen
get
there.
to that in the next one, but
Yeah.
honestly, I think the Atlantic's gonna be powerful, which sucks because my Leafs are finally fucking doing something, and
Yeah.
they're up against the fucking Goliaths left and right.
Hmm.
But it is what it is. That's the story of the NHL.
So I know we spoke about the vets there, Bergeron, Chara, Krejci, all that. But who do you look at to really be the focal point on carrying this team or taking the next big step for the team to
Can
get
I
them
go
into the
first?
playoffs again? Yeah.
Yeah, Shauna, go ahead.
For me, so we kind of touched on Chara kind of taking a step back. For me, it has to be Brandon Carlo. Like,
Mhm.
I watched a few of the Bruins regular season games, and then I watched all their playoff games. The dude was a fucking horse for them.
Mhm.
He doesn't rack up 20, 30, 40 points, but he fucking eats minutes. I'm pretty sure one game against the Leafs, he averaged like 28 minutes. That's fucking unheard of
Yeah.
in the NHL. And he's on your second pair. That
Dude,
is fucking huge.
well,
If he can ride that again through this year and at least take some load off Char and McAvoy, huge, dude. Fucking huge.
it's funny, man. You're looking at Carlo. I actually think once he signs his deal, that McAvoy is the future of their D.
100%.
I think he's gonna step over to Krug. I think like in terms of like playing a complete game, like he's as good as it gets, really, man. Like Krug finished -2. Like he was playing on the top pair last year.
Yeah.
Krug was.
Yeah.
So McAvoy finished +14.
Actually, no. Pudgy was. McAvoy
Oh,
was.
okay.
Krug was on the second line. Yeah.
So I mean, listen, I think McAvoy is gonna take another huge step. I don't think the contract negotiations are gonna drag out too much longer.
No.
So I definitely think he's gonna be. Honestly, man, yeah, you got Marshy and Pasternak, but I think McAvoy is gonna be kind of the future of that team. He's a well-spoken guy. He might get the C when the big boys are gone, man. I think
Yeah.
he has a better shot at getting the C than a guy like Marchand does or a guy like Pasternak does. Just by the way he kind of holds his
Handles
chest out
himself.
when he speaks, and he's
Yeah.
a very well spoken dude. So
Hmm.
I could see that happening for sure.
Yeah. I think for me, you look at a guy like Jake DeBrusk. He scored 27 last year. Huge numbers for a guy in his second year. Um, but I think he scored 27, but he only had 15 apples. I think he's got to bring up that point total a little bit, especially if we're looking at that top line. If they're gonna get shut down a couple nights, he's gonna have to be the secondary scorer there and really drag the team a bit.
Hmm.
Because there's always gonna be those nights, right, where your top guys just aren't going. So I think he's a good guy to watch out for. Even excuse me, a Carson Kuhlman, this new kid of sorts. He's a good guy to watch out for. But it's going to be interesting.
Well, he only had 15 assists, 27 goals. I think him playing right next to David Krejci, who had 53 apples last year.
Mm-hmm.
I do find DeBrusk fucking disappeared in the playoffs though, man. Like
Yeah.
normally he's in your face and he's kind of he's making you eat it, and this year he was not. He was nowhere to be found, and then he scored a nice one in Game 7. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I hate all these guys, to be honest. I'm sick of talking about them.
All right, so let's wrap this one up then.
All right. So before we end this episode, we want to thank our sponsor. Are you craving Chinese food? Then look no further than Wong Kok. Located in South Riding, Virginia. So if you're in the area, you want a peanut butter dumpling, maybe some soy sauce and sushi, head on over. They got it all.
Where was that again?
Wong Kok.
One cock. Okay, thank you.
I
You're
hate
welcome.
it. I hated every second of that.
Bye.
Every fucking second of that.